Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Monday, September 2nd, 2024. Today we are doing Descender number 3, the story of Tim 21, who is a robot that is woken up after a robotic genocide. So this is written by Jeff Lemire and drawn by Dustin Nguyen. Illustrated, painted with beautiful watercolors by Dustin Nguyen. And Tim 21 here, right, in this scene where they're using the warm sort of the French grays, sort of a pink, he is in robot heaven. That's not, okay, that's kind of, I'm not going to make fun of that as a concept. It's okay, I get it. My beef is a little bit earlier than that. So here they are in robot heaven, and he's meeting a robot, sort of like Virgil and Dante in the Aeneid, or Dante's Inferno, where Virgil escorts Dante through hell. So here is the escort. He has come to show Tim basically to heaven. But my issue is with this bit up here. My issue is here. My issue is in the setup for this entire series. So this setup for the entire series is there's a galactic 9-world alliance, right? The UGC, the United Galactic Council or something. It's like 9 planets. And these harvesters show up. These giant robots show up and quote unquote wreak havoc and then leave. There's no body counts. There's no numbers for the amount of damage done. Like, oh, they destroyed how many systems? They cost us this much to replace it all. There's none of that. They just wreak havoc. So what? They scare old ladies? What happens? And then the humans, in response to this havoc being wreaked upon them, destroy all their robots. Now, we're supposed to feel that if this is an allegory for a race war, it's a very poor one. We're going to have a race war, you guys. It's coming really fast. And you need to be prepared. There is an argument that, do dogs go to heaven? Do dogs have their own heaven? Like, if people didn't exist, would dogs have their own gods? You know, your cats will eat you once you die. And they usually eat the face. So all the cat ladies, prepare to have your face eaten when you die home alone in your apartment with 30 cats. Do you think animals have an afterlife? Do you really think so? I think this is it. I think this life is the closest thing we get to heaven. And it's a heaven or a hell. It's what you make of it. And what you leave behind, your legacy, how people remember you. Look, I gotta give it up for Dustin Nguyen. I was really looking forward to reading this issue, and I'm really looking forward to reading the next one, because right now I'm drawing a comic that features a lot of kids, and they're not easy to draw. And so I am absolutely taking notes from his work here, especially the last issue with the family, the little blonde kid and his mom. Really amazing artwork. The storyline, however, requires some intellectual leaps. The leaps in this story are how money works. Because you're assigning faith to something that doesn't have it in real life. And the leaps in this are, so I've been getting into crypto a lot lately, and I'm at an age where I do all my research before I spend a lot of cash, so I'm not getting burned as much as I should. I am losing money to fees. I think I lost 50% going from Ethereum to Solana, which sucked. I could have just taken it out to my bank account and bought the Solana, and that would have been a better move. Live and learn. So that kind of sucked. But that's a learning process sort of thing, whereas the jumps that you're making here are like the jumps where you think It's like betting on a sports team because you love the team. That's the jump that you're asking the audience to make here. And if it works, it's magic. And if it doesn't work, it's pretty pictures on paper. There's nothing wrong with pretty pictures on paper. But the magic isn't working. The magic isn't working because what's not happening, this is a big setup. And I think Liam Gray might have done a better job with his new Dino King story, given how much press that's getting amongst the online comic book community. Everyone really kind of seems to love that story, where you're imbuing a lizard with empathy. Here we're imbuing robots with empathy. And I think it's a bit more of a jump to make. These are very interesting characters. The robots are. Here we have, so this is now we're back in the real world where Tim has been killed or wounded, or he's mostly dead if we're in The Princess Bride. And he's being rescued by this robot driller. This robot has a head and hands and feet. He's a drill, but he can get up and walk around. So imagine an oil derrick getting up and running around to fix other robots. I have a robot story myself, and I remember pitching it to a boss of mine. And I remember him saying, I can't imagine anyone ever identifying with robots. And then we saw movies like WALL-E, where obviously people will identify with robots. And maybe that comment is what is giving me the intellectual disconnect from this story. The character designs are all fantastic. The characterizations are fantastic. But unless you do a better job explaining why Driller looks like a mercenary robot from Gears of War, it comes across as contrived. And I dealt with the same thing in my work. This was one of my first stories. It was a robot story called Revolution 01. I think it's I want to say 240 pages script. So it would be a long movie. And it's about a robot who the main head computer melts down, and a third of the robots burn, a third of the robots become independent, and a third of the robots remain as servants to the main computer. Now we have this girl with Dr. Kwan. Let me back up a page. They are on their way to find Tim 21 because he is the code architectural forefather of the robots that wreaked havoc, where they attacked, but apparently nobody died. God only knows what damage was done because the guys couldn't be bothered to tell us. Why not have a few pages of that, like they did with Battlestar Galactica, the new series, when the Cylons invaded? We had, a couple episodes of the fleet getting underway. Problem is you have this 10-year gap. The 10-year gap could have been solved with travel. With travel from the main planet out to this mining colony. What if that takes 10 years? Suspended animation. And mostly they just send back ore or robots. They don't have to send back people. So 10 years isn't a big deal. Whereas, I'm just complaining. This is a beautiful, beautiful comic book. I have no right to complain. It's worth every cent of the $3.85 that it costs, or $5, or $8. This is a $10 comic. Comics have been underpriced for a long time. But Netflix, the way Netflix is these days, So here we have the humans arriving, and they find Driller with Tim, and they attack him. I believe they shoot him. Oh, yeah. They hit him with an EMP charge and knock him out, so he's not dead. And then they find Tim. And now we have sort of this ticking clock thing going on, where the humans have to rescue Tim and bring him back online before his hard drives are completely wiped. So, and I guess the hard drives being completely wiped is Tim going over into the, basically going over to heaven. And so they're doing emergency robot surgery. before he's completely checked out to bring him back. And they do. It is really beautiful. I'm 3 issues in. My mind is completely adjusted to Gustin Nguyen's pencils and watercolors with no inks. It's amazing. I read all of Blade of the Immortal. It's like 32 trade paperbacks. I think there was some 300 issues. I don't know how many, 260 maybe. And that's just pencils that were scanned and then had the resolution bumped up so they look like inks. And that's probably one of my favorite works of all time. If you guys have not seen it, Takashi Miike film Blade of the Immortal. Oh, this is the last page. So the next page is ads. I really like what Image is doing here. So this is the cover of the next book. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love this character Driller. I wish they hadn't killed those scavenger mercenary characters. I thought they were going to be in for the whole book. I was really excited about those guys. They looked really cool. We were going to get to see all kinds of stuff happen with them. They could have had a shootout. They could have been wounded. They could be pissed off. This looks good, but I'm not fascinated by it. It looks a little too real. Comics should not be pitches for movies, okay? There's a difference between a comic book character and a movie story. A movie story does not have legs. Movies are not made to have legs. Cartoons are characters made to have legs. The Batman cartoons of the early 70s that were little pocket episodes, recurring characters, the Spider-Man cartoons. The Tick is a character. The Crow is a character. But the Crow, now look, the Crow is a perfect movie pitch. If you guys want to do movie pitch comic books, the Crow is hands down probably the best one. It's basically supernatural Casey Jones, right? Casey Jones, perfect character. Not, you know, like, you can do multiple stories. The Punisher, perfect character. Perfect character. You can do multiple stories with them. They lend themselves to it. You can tell the difference between a character and a story. So Burn Notice could have been as good a comic as it was a TV show. You guys remember the 2000s USA, I think it was USA, Characters Welcome was their quote for their channel. The sort of anti-white culture war was just gearing up in the early 2000s. The Jews weren't as ballsy as they are now. And it's going to bite him in the ass. This is today's card. Today's Yggdrasil card is Frey, Spring and New Beginnings. And Freya, I'm guessing, is also a fertility goddess. So this is a perfect example of Red Wedding shit. Friday is named after Lord Frey. The only thing anyone knows about him is the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones. Because Game of Thrones was made by Jews, and it was all white cast, but it's an anti-white story. It's pro-white and anti-white because it's an all-white cast. That's what all of our stuff should be. That's what all of our stuff should be. No Jews should be allowed in white culture. It's not yours. And I'm going to make all this money on crypto, and I'm going to find other guys to make money on crypto with. I've already found some of them. And we're going to make a pro-white movie studio. Pro-white movies, comics. And it's not going to be anti-anyone else. It's just going to be pro-us. And sure, we'll have some white guys as villains. Some, not many. Not all the other people are going to be villains either. I'm not going to do agenda-driven propaganda. So I say I'm going to have a pro-white studio. I am not going to do agenda-driven propaganda. Or if it is, it will be so subtle, you won't be able to call me out on it. Because that's the lens I have to look at everything through. I have to go back to the early 70s, basically back to when Dukes of Hazzard and the A-Team were on the air, to find stuff that's wholesome. And the whole reason I'm reading comics is because all of the stuff coming out of Hollywood, like, I can see the pendulum starting to try and swing back. This new M. Night Shyamalan movie, Trap, where Josh Hartnett is a serial killer. That's anti-white propaganda. Sure, there are white serial killers. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Part of that is the fact that we don't have a homogenous society anymore. You don't hear a lot about Japanese serial killers, or Korean serial killers, or Chinese serial killers. You hear about it in cultures where the culture is being overrun by other tribes. And that's what's happening in America today. Does this make me a racist? I don't know. But it's being done deliberately to hurt white people, and not acknowledging that is cuckoldry. And a lot of white guys are cuckolds these days. And they're cuckolded by their wives, because their wives are the ones telling them that all Negroes are magical. They're not. They're criminal. They're really, really dumb. They never learned how to use the wheel. I don't owe them anything. I certainly don't owe Jews anything. So why am I going off like this today? Because today I made another $150 on crypto. I lost 30, but I made money too, and it's going to keep going up. And maybe I won't be a millionaire in 5 weeks, but maybe in 5 years. And when that happens, you guys are, I'm not going to be a friend to you, Jews and blacks. And a lot more white people are not going to be friends to you. Salty Cracker had a video today about, I don't even remember what it was. It was insanity. Just his whole channel is insanity. He'd have been canceled a few years ago. He'd have not only been canceled, they'd have shut down the Swift account under his name and not allowed him to trade any cash at all. That's why I'm so heavily getting into crypto. You will not be able to cancel me. So tomorrow we'll have the next Descender, and the artwork is amazing. Oh, because I have to do this. Legacy of a Mad Scientist, Legend of Ashley Fox. Ashley Fox and her brother Jeff get chased by corrupt government agents and then by serial killers when they try to unite the gangs of a local orphanage to fight against the serial killers preying on the children. Ashley Fox, Last Valkyrie, a PDF here in the description. You guys can download it, check it out. My writing's been going really good. Making money's been going better. And I'm not going to give this up. When I get a lot of money, I'm just going to blow it. It won't be agenda-driven propaganda, but it will be good. And in video games, that's going to be the ultimate goal, is a video game with comics and movies inside it that you can trade crypto in and bet in. So, all right, see you guys tomorrow.